I think one of the hardest parts of fatherhood for many men is not just the pressure itself. It is the feeling like there is nowhere appropriate to put it. You're carrying a lot, but you don't know how to say it, who to say it to, or whether saying it would even help. So you keep moving, and over time that creates a very specific kind of loneliness. Not the loneliness of being physically alone, but the loneliness of being internally unshared. There have been long periods in my life where I have felt like I had no one to speak to. Not because there were literally no people around me, but because the load was difficult to explain. Because I was used to carrying it. Because I was hard-headed. And because somewhere along the way, usefulness had become easier than honesty. And that's a pattern I think many fathers live inside without naming. Part of the issue is language. Men often do not have a clean vocabulary for mixed emotional states. It's easier to say, "I'm tired," than to say, "I feel overloaded, guilty, financially stretched, physically off, and emotionally saturated." It's easier to keep functioning than to risk sounding weak, dramatic, or unclear. So fathers often say less than they actually mean, and after years of doing that, silence becomes normal. Part of it is identity too. If you are known as the steady one, the practical one, the one who can carry things, then speaking honestly can feel like breaking character. It can feel like dropping the role people rely on. That does not mean the role is fake. It just means it becomes restrictive. You begin performing resilience even when what you need is to be understood more fully. I think many men also underestimate the force of habit. If you have spent years carrying things privately, not speaking becomes part of how you function. You stop expecting to be deeply understood. You stop reaching. You stop trying to explain the full version. And then one day you realize you're surrounded by people, but internally alone in ways that are hard to describe. In my life, there have been several reasons silence became easy. Early fatherhood, pressure arriving before I had emotionally matured, grief that life did not pause to make room for, business pressure and joblessness, supporting wider family, caring about many people at once and trying to stay solid in all of it. When you live like that, openness can start to feel inefficient. It can feel like something that slows you down when life still expects you to move. But silence has a cost. It can make pressure feel heavier. It can make a man harder. It can reduce emotional flexibility. It can change how he shows up in relationships. It can make him easier to depend on and harder to know. And that can create a strange contradiction where a father is deeply committed to the people he loves, but still feels unseen in what it costs him to keep showing up. That's one reason I think honest spaces matter. Not because a video replaces real support, it doesn't. But because often the first thing a father needs is recognition. He needs to hear something accurate enough that he realizes he's not uniquely broken or strange. He needs language before he needs solutions. Once something is named properly, it becomes easier to carry differently. I also think that fathers need to know that not having words does not mean there is nothing there. A lot of men assume if they cannot express something cleanly, then maybe it's not worth saying. But often the opposite is true. The difficulty of saying it is a sign that it matters. The reason it feels tangled is because it's just been sitting inside unprocessed for a long time. If you are a father who feels like there is no one to speak to, I don't think that always means there is no one there. Sometimes it means your inner world has gone untranslated for so long that connection no longer feels natural. Sometimes it means you do not have yet the words. Sometimes it means you are too identified with being strong to risk being honest. And that is exactly why deeper conversations matter. If this resonates, let me know in the comments what stops fathers speaking most. Pride, lack of trust, lack of language, or just being too used to carrying things alone.